Now at 5, a proposal to help resettle about 50 Afghan refugees in the Joplin area.
Investigators are on the site of the deadly Astroworld concert crush. I'm Lilia Luciano in Houston, where families are demanding answers.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Around 50 Afghans will soon be living in the Joplin area. This is KOAM News at 5. Refugee and Immigrant Services and Education, or RAISE, held a public meeting today in Joplin to discuss what this means for the Joplin area. In addition, they discussed what made Joplin the right fit to accept the refugees.
Because we have so many faith-based and community support services, we have tens of thousands of people that are attending churches that have a heart for the foreigner. We have affordable housing that a lot of the places, especially the urban cities, do not have.
Tonight at 6, we're going to hear more from RAISE on what the community needs to know about the Afghans coming to the area. Authorities are investigating 2 separate shootings that happened in Joplin yesterday, and now one of the shooting victims is under arrest for a different case. The JPD responded to the first shooting just before 10:30 a.m. on the 900 block of South Connor Avenue. That's where they found 29-year-old Joseph Pryor suffering from a single gunshot wound. After he was treated at a hospital for a non-life-threatening injury, police arrested Pryor on active warrants out of Webb City. The second shooting happened on the 3100 block of South Jefferson Avenue. Officers were called around 5:30 p.m. and found a man with a gunshot wound to his abdomen. No word on his condition. Joplin police are still investigating, but they believe this was an isolated incident and that there's no threat to the public. Special elections are underway in Oklahoma, where a number of area counties and communities have local government races on the ballots. Polls closed at 7, and we're going to have the results tonight on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Checking in with Doug Heddy now for our first look at the weather.
Hey, Dal, it actually turned out to be a pretty good day for us today. A lot of clouds across the region, but not bad. We still have mostly cloudy skies, and there have been a couple random little tiny sprinkles across the region as a weak wave is pushing through. But our much bigger storm system now pulling into the western parts of the Rockies, and that system is going to give us very good chances for showers and thunderstorms here in about 24 hours. Until then, I think we look okay. We're sitting mid to upper 60s at this point in time. There is a weak little front. You can see a little wind shift line that has been trying to work in over the past couple hours. This is really just going to kind of wash out and lift back toward the north, so we'll get those southerly winds back once again later on tonight into tomorrow. Temps will drop back through the 60s, but not that chilly tonight. Upper 50s for overnight lows, of course. We're going to look at those thunderstorms rolling in for us tomorrow here in just a bit.
See you then. Investigators in Houston are trying to figure out how a Travis Scott concert turned into a deadly stampede. A 56-page event operations plan for the Astroworld Music Festival included protocols for things like an active shooter or severe weather, but made no mention of what to do in the event of a crowd surge. Reporter Lilia Luciano is in Houston, where families are demanding answers.
Investigators are combing the site of a deadly concert crush at the Astroworld Music Festival. Rapper Travis Scott was performing Friday night when chaos erupted, killing 8 people and wounding many more, including a 9-year-old boy described as having life-threatening injuries. His family filed a lawsuit, one of many alleging ground staff did not do enough to prevent or stop the mayhem.
The show must go on, but the show must go on doesn't mean people got to die at your show.
Houston attorney Rick Ramos represents more than 30 victims. He says Scott and the event's holders should have foreseen this tragedy after a similar crowd rush in 2019. Video from Friday shows Scott did pause briefly to get help.
We need somebody to help him. Somebody passed out right here.
But then carried on, and according to Ramos, made things even worse.
After seeing the dead bodies right in front of him, he turned around to the crowd and said, "Everybody put your middle finger up."
Out here in front of Energy Park, people continue bringing candles, flowers, stuffed animals, and even some sneakers with messages written on them for the victims. Houston's mayor says the families are entitled to answers, and he's vowing a top-to-bottom investigation into the promoter, the park, and whether safety measures were followed.
It is about providing accountability from the beginning to the end.
Scott says he's cooperating with authorities and has offered to pay for the victims' funerals. Lilia Luciano, CBS News, Houston.
Scott says he's also partnering with the company to provide free therapy for those concert goers in need. The House committee investigating the January 6th assault on our Capitol has subpoenaed more top-level members of the 2020 Trump re-election campaign. The committee is looking into reports that some of the former president's campaign aides set up a so-called war room in a D.C. hotel in an effort to overturn the 2020 election. There's a separate legal fight launched by the former president over White House records leading up to January 6th. Former president has sued to keep them private, citing executive privilege. If a federal judge does not step in, the records could be released later this week. The European Union accuses Belarus of acting like a gangster regime as thousands of freezing migrants camp on the Polish border. Poland has accused Belarus of attempting to orchestrate a crisis on the EU's eastern front by funneling migrants to the border in retaliation for sweeping sanctions imposed on Minsk in June. Belarus has repeatedly denied the claims, blaming the West for dangerous, sometimes fatal border crossings and poor treatment of migrants. Coming up in Health Watch, an authorization request for vaccine boosters.
Pfizer booster shots could be available to everyone soon. I'm Deborah Alfarone in Washington with the latest on that, plus the fight over the White House's vaccine requirement for some private employers.
And later, the cost you should expect when buying groceries for your Thanksgiving meal. Topping today's Health Watch, the Justice Department has asked a federal judge to allow its vaccine requirement rule for employers to go forward after a temporary halt was issued. More than 24 states have challenged the Biden administration's rule. Meanwhile, another major vaccine manufacturer has officially submitted a request to get its booster shot authorized for all adults. Reporter Deborah Alfarone has more from the White House.
The Biden administration has responded to a federal appeals court's temporary freeze against the Occupational Safety and Health Administration's rule. It mandates employers with 100 or more workers to implement a vaccine requirement or regular testing starting in January. In the filing, the Justice Department argues not allowing the rule would, quote, likely cost dozens or even hundreds of lives per day, in addition to large numbers of hospitalizations, other serious health effects, and tremendous costs.
These are policies that are protecting workforces and avoiding disruptions related to employees getting sick with COVID.
It comes as vaccine manufacturer Pfizer has asked the FDA to grant emergency use authorization for its booster shots for all adults.
The third dose is the one that gives very, very high level of protection, higher than the originally achieved levels of protection, which was 95%. With the 2 doses.
Right now, only seniors and those who are at high risk are eligible for the Pfizer booster in the U.S.
The U.S. Surgeon General has released a toolkit to help health professionals, educators, and community leaders combat vaccine misinformation.
We believe that every parent has a right to the facts so they can make decisions for their children based on accurate scientific information.
It comes nearly a week after the administration's rollout of Pfizer's pediatric doses for kids ages 5 to 11. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
According to the latest CDC numbers, more than 78% of Americans over the age of 12 have received at least 1 dose of a COVID vaccine. Blood cancer patients have an increased risk of developing life-threatening illness from COVID-19 infections, even if fully vaccinated. That's according to a new study that found death rates are high for blood cancer patients with breakthrough cases of COVID, though the mortality rate was even higher before vaccines became available. A new national survey finds nearly 4 out of 5 Americans believe opioids are necessary to manage pain after surgery, but most are willing to consider other options that include over-the-counter drugs. Doctors say it's important to have an alternative pain management plan in place when deciding not to use opioids. And a new international study finds exposure to air pollution can raise the risk of developing depression, especially for people with a genetic predisposition to the mental health disorder. Researchers at Johns Hopkins found air pollution can affect the brain's cognitive and emotional circuitry. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, a new program is challenging area parents to help young kids read 100 books before kindergarten.
Plus, we have thunderstorms in the forecast for us tomorrow. We'll check that out coming up. Not a bad day for us today. A lot of clouds across the region, a little bit on the breezy side. But again, temperature is pretty good, near 70 during the afternoon. But we do have some changes rolling in. Thunderstorms for us tomorrow evening and tomorrow night. Behind it, a cold front's going to roll in. Actually, several cold fronts. So back to a weekend freeze. December 2nd, we'll do the winter forecast. Of course, you can always get my month-long blog at KOAMnewsnow.com. All right, temperatures still pretty good. 64 in Nevada, 66 in Neosho, Pittsburgh 65, much of the same in Miami. We have 67 in Neodesha, and we do have a weak little front that has kind of pushed in over the past few hours. So you can see northerly winds in our northern counties, southerly winds in our southern counties. But this front's really just going to kind of wash out and kind of lift back toward the north as we go through the evening hours for us tonight. A lot of clouds. Not much in the way of sunshine for us today. Currently outside 67. Humidity is at about 70%. Through the evening hours, we'll slide back through the 60s. Eventually, upper 50s a little bit later on tonight. But still, we're going to have a lot of clouds sticking around as we go through the overnight hours. I think we'll mainly stay dry. We may get a random shower, a random sprinkle that pops up. But in general, most of you are going to be dry. Here's our next storm system. Moving into the western parts of the Rockies, and it's that system which will start to affect us, especially tomorrow evening. We'll get showers and thunderstorms. All right, for us tonight, a few random sprinkles try to rotate through. It's not a big deal, but we're going to have a few of these guys out there through the overnight hours into the morning hours for us tomorrow. A lot of clouds stick around, so here's about the noon hour. Very similar to today, temps mid to upper 60s. And a lot of clouds kind of sticking around as we go through the daytime hours. Here's your day planner for you. We're going to start at 59, 65 by noon. High temp is 69, but just a lot of clouds all day long. Southerly winds start to pick up as we head into the afternoon. But check this out. Here's 5 p.m. Showers, thunderstorms developing in our western counties. Some of these could be strong, maybe low grade severe, but I think most of them will just stay strong, and then they're going to work east as we go through the evening hours. Here's 7:30 p.m., so most of Pittsburgh and Joplin at this point in time getting into the action. Then they quickly push through. So by midnight, most of these are going to be gone. Colder air filters in as we head into Thursday morning. So Thursday, a much cooler day, upper 50s to near 60. And then another cold front drops in. By the time we head into Friday morning, some clouds, maybe a random shower, but this cools us down even more by the time we head into the weekend. All right, rainfall with this next system, I think most of us ½ an inch to about an inch of rain. And then once we get past this, we don't have much action, at least for all the way through the weekend. We're going to get a lot of cold fronts, but we're not going to get much in the way of rainfall, but our temperatures definitely are going to drop off. 69 tomorrow, 60 on Thursday, only 49 on Friday. Some morning showers. We clear out, the weekend looks pretty good. It's just going to be kind of chilly. High temps mainly into the mid 50s.
Yeah, I call that chilly. And lows 28
yeah,
Friday
28
night.
Saturday morning.
Thanks, Doug. Reading can be very important for young kids and their development. You know that. Well, the McDonald County School District is challenging parents of young kids to help them read 100 books before kindergarten. As part of the program, the district is offering mobile book checkout stations where parents can pick a book to read every week. If they follow the program, they'll hit 100 books before the child starts kindergarten.
This program does is it lets them take books home, and so they're learning the responsibility of bringing books back, taking books home, but then it's also giving them time to read with their families. And so they're short books, they're board books, so it usually takes maybe 10 minutes.
Book checkout locations are at Southwest City Elementary and Knoll Primary School. Coming up, the potential for record grocery prices this Thanksgiving. First, though, we honor a local veteran. Thomas French joined the U.S. Army in 2002. Pittsburgh native was stationed in Iraq and received a Purple Heart. And we salute Corporal Thomas French, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, a measure of inflation is on the rise. According to the Labor Department, the Producer Price Index increased 0.6% in October. That was in line with expectations. But prices are up a whopping 8.6% over this time last year. 1/3 of the monthly increase can be blamed on rising fuel costs. With grocery stores already struggling to fill empty shelves, people can expect to pay record high prices for their Thanksgiving meal. Reporter Meg Oliver shows us why you might want to hit the grocery store early.
Thanksgiving is a few weeks away, but with so many supply chain issues, I'm here early to make sure I get all the fixins. Here's the good news. The USDA says there isn't actually a turkey shortage this year, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be paying more. The birds are going to cost you an extra 10 to 15%. If you're having a smaller Thanksgiving, buy your turkey early. The smaller ones are expected to go first, as Americans keep their gatherings intimate. And by the way, if you're thinking of having chicken as an alternative, that could be a problem too. All poultry prices are rising because of factors like climate change, making the grain they eat harder to get, so more expensive, and that cost is getting passed on to us. No Thanksgiving would be complete without pumpkin, and that could be another issue. Most of our canned and pureed pumpkins come from Illinois, which was hit hard by a fungus this year. Aluminum shortages mean this and any other canned goods are in shorter supply. That's because aluminum suppliers can't get their hands on enough magnesium, which is produced in China and an important part of the aluminum making process. Farms are having a tough time all around because of wood shortages needed for shipping and labor shortages, especially migrant farm workers who weren't allowed in the country during the pandemic. If all of this is stressing you out and you need a drink, I hate to tell you this, but liquor may be harder to come by. A lot of booze comes from overseas and companies are having a tough time sourcing the bottles, and they take time to make. The overall message from the USDA is don't worry too much. If everyone gets only what they need, there should be enough to go around.
Meg Oliver, CBS News, Clifton, New Jersey.
Three-way split is coming for GE. The conglomerate says it's splitting up into 3 separate companies beginning in 2023. One will focus on healthcare, one on aviation, one on energy. The aviation business will keep the GE name. The company is trying to put an end to more than a decade of struggles, which started with the 2008 financial crisis. And no ticket stub needed for a tub of movie theater popcorn. AMC is expanding its buttery business outside of theaters. The company says its popcorn will be available in to-go packages for takeout or pickup and to order via a delivery service. Pre-packaged bags will also be sold at supermarkets and convenience stores. Final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, the Thanksgiving holiday travel forecast. Then on KOAM News at 6. We're going to have more on the proposal to resettle around 50 Afghan refugees in the Joplin area. Plus, the Oklahoma State Supreme Court overturns an opioid ruling against Johnson & Johnson. And how a Pitt State fraternity is raising money for an area charity. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. A faithful copy of Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa sold today for $242,000 at a Paris auction. Leonardo's original, which French King Francois I bought from the painter back in 1518, is in Paris's Louvre Museum, of course. In June, a European collector bought another 17th century copy of Mona Lisa for more than $3.3 million, a record for a reproduction of the work that was sold at Christie's in Paris. You know that it's not an original, by the way, if you see someone photobombing in the background.
That's true.
Mona Lisa selfie not worth nearly as much. Weather.
Well, it looks okay for us tonight. We may have a random sprinkler or two. Near 70 tomorrow. Most of the day looks pretty good, but we are going to get thunderstorms in here by the evening hours, some very heavy amounts of rain. A very loud evening for us tomorrow night. So, of course, we're going to be talking about that tonight at 6.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. Of course, we will be right back here at 6. Let's make it a great evening.